Hello, good evening, my dear friends, fellow travelers, and as well as photographers. Chris Lee here. Welcome to my travel channels. Today is number 24 of my episodes, which I will share with you in a great city in Iran. The name of this city is Kerman. Right, let's stay tuned and see what this Kerman city have to offer to his visitor. A quick one. Iran is located as the Central Asia, and you can see from the map have shown in this slide. And of course, Iran is just a large country, and you can see that they also have divided the country in many provincial provinces, and whereby the Kerman itself is a provincial capital in the Kerman province. So this is exactly the location of Kerman, and you will look carefully. Actually, Kerman is actually a desert city or a desert town. Now let's go a bit in depth about Kerman city before we move on to place of interest that we can find in Kerman. Now Kerman is actually located at an altitude of 1,755 meters above sea level, considered a high ground, and is a provincial capital of Kerman and a desert city in southeastern Iran, and is neighboring to Lut Desert, one of the popular famous deserts in Iran. Now hence frequently experiencing sandstorm during spring and autumn. For visitors intend to visit this city, this is something you have to take note of. And Kerman is the 14th most populous city in Iran, but at the same time it's the largest city by area in Iran. Initially the city was built as an outpost during the 3rd century, and for its long historical history, that is famous for his historical mosques as well as Zoroastrian architectures, and as well as one of the ancient ruins by the name Rayen Castle. Now this city indeed is very famous and popular for Zoroastrian architecture and heritage. So any visitor who visit to this part of Iran, please make sure that you pay extra attention to this Zoroastrian heritage and culture. Now a point to note here is that Kerman region is the largest carpet producing and exporting center of Iran. So if you want to get carpet, this could be a good spot for you to purchase Iranian carpet beside Syria, which I just introduced you last week. And also the largest producer of dry pistachio nuts in the world. And please don't leave home go back home without it, right? And Kerman also was once a very popular industry. It's called copper industry, but today the copper industry had become getting smaller. Instead, turned into an art. You can expect to find a lot of copper ware and handicraft made of copper in this part of Iran. So our journey, you can shown here that this is actually the 3rd city that we stopped over after we landed in Shiraz, and now we are in Kerman. And location of Kerman is right at the Kerman province, right? The Kerman, as I said earlier, is a provincial capital of Kerman province. Now, I want to share with you this ancient castle. It's called Rayen Castle. Now, you can see from this picture, it's a picture that I've captured while visiting this Rayen Castle. And they exhibited the actual how the castle will look like before the earthquake. And this is the exterior of the castle. The castle was, of course, surrounded by high wall. Now, the Rayen Castle is also known as Rayen Citadel. It's an ancient adobe castle situated on the old Silk Road about 100 km south of Kerman City, on the skirts of Mount Herat, which is actually 4,420 meters high. It's a medieval mud brick city, right? And which was destroyed during a very recent earthquake in the year 2003. Now, it displays all the architecture elements of a desert citadel, which was well preserved till the recent earthquake. The citadel was inhabited till late 150 years ago. That means, in other words, before that, actually everything is still fine. It's only lately, the 150 years ago, then this old city or castle is been deserted. Now, it is believed to have more than 1,000 years old of history, and the governor quarters in the castle is the most beautiful section of all after extensively renovated or restored after the earthquake. Between the old citadel walls, the rich and the poor seem to be not staying together, but instead was staying separately in different zones in the castle compound. So let's go on with the images to see how this ancient castle look like. I believe that all this exterior wall is being restored after the earthquake. This is actually the entrance gate to the Rayen Castle. And of course, the first section that we encounter is actually look like is actually the entrance foyer of the castle, where of course you have to pay entrance fee, a nominal entrance fee, before you visiting this Rayen Castle. So you still can find some shop unit, shop lots, outlets or shop outlets selling souvenirs to the visitor. This part of the Rayen Castle is the most beautiful sections, and you can see the style, the architecture styles. Although it's simple, I mean the decoration is not something lavish or something exorbitantly, but you can still see the design, the typical Zoroastrian design and culture and heritage. And this is actually the view in this Rayen Castle. The mud brick structures is everywhere. You didn't see any other building material used except the mud brick. Although the castles after the earthquakes, some have been destroyed, but you still can see clearly the the well-built infrastructures. You still have a lane linking from one section to other sections. And interestingly, inside the castle, there's quite a big compound. There's one big compound. I believe it's been used for the assembly of the people. And this section, I was told, is actually where the poor are staying. There seemed to be the planning and the layout of this the building inside. The building inside is felt quite systematic, and it doesn't look like in a mess. It seems to have some form of planning, or we call it city planning. Okay, then move on to another important attractions in Kerman. Is basically the MALEK Mosque. Now, you realize actually when we visit Iran, in every city, we tend to have the opportunity to visit one of their more famous mosques in each of this city. And there's no exceptions when we come to Kerman. And therefore, the attraction, the main attraction to us here again is a mosque called MALEK Mosque. MALEK Mosque in Kerman is also known as Imam's or Ayman's Mosque, which is sited in the northeastern part of Old City district of Kerman. It's one of the oldest and biggest mosques of Kerman, and the mosque featuring 4 large verandas date back to Seljuk dynasty during the 5th century, but it has been reconstructed during different periods. Now, the western veranda, including space under the dome cover area, are the oldest part of this mosque. Later, I will share with you which section is it. 3 of the 4 entrances door were decorated by stalactites, elaborated plastering works, and intricate tile works, while the brick tower at the northeastern side, together with 3 decorated altars, are from the Seljuk era. So let's go into the image proper to get a better understanding. Now we can see this is a large square in this MALEK Mosque, and you can see exactly in each side there is an I1. Remember, the I1 is one of the typical Iranian architecture style, and right in the image here, right at the center, face to you is actually an I1, and you can see one on your right hand side. Actually, there's also one on the left, and there's one actually behind these images. So altogether, there are 4 I1, each of them facing one another's, right? They're not facing the east, the south, facing the west. Altogether, there are 4 I1. This is actually the entrance to this MALEK Mosque. We look from the exterior. And after entering from the entrance, and we look up, and there is the decorations on the wall and on the ceiling of the passageway leading to the open plaza or courtyard. So this is one of the I1. You can see that the tile decorations is so exclusively and intricately done. The inscriptions you can see at the topmost, as well as in all the pattern and design, they have all these inscriptions been done up. A closer view of the I1. If you recall the earlier episode, you realize actually this is one of the typical architecture style in Iran. This is another I1, but this I1 itself, you can see that it's more focused on brickworks. So as we enter to this I1, you can have a chance to see the decorations above at the dome and at the ceiling area. Very beautiful patterns and design. A closer view. Some of the tile works on the wall at the lower section of the I1. Well, this is at the far side of the wall or building that surrounding the plaza or the square or courtyard, whichever you like to call it. So that is just now the share view on the MALEK Mosque. And I'm going to bring you to another very important complex. It's called the Ganjali Khan complex and square. As I say that the visit in every Iran major city, you not only visit the mosque, you also visit their marketplace. And this is another marketplace that we have visited in Kerman. And remember, I did highlight to you just now, Kerman is the main carpet producer region of Iran, both for internal consumption as for export as well. It's also the largest producer of dry nut, pistachio nuts. So therefore, when you come to Kerman, you visit this Ganjali Khan complex, which is actually a bazaar, then you should make an attempt to purchase these two famous local items. This is the exterior view of this grand bazaar. And as you walk into it, you find that actually all these are very old bazaar, and the building have many years old of history. Look at the archwork and the brickworks above the shopping alley or the so-called the corridor. Fully brickworks. And this, there are many such streets that in this bazaar, and it's very crowded. All right. And this is actually at the open square area. You can see a dome building. Now let's go a bit on this Ganjali Khan complex before we go further with the image. Ganjali Khan complex situated in the southern part of Ganjali Square in the city of Kerman is a huge complex named after the governor of Kerman, the Ganjali Khan, during the Safavid era. Now the complex covers an area of about 11,000 square meters, which include a square, which you just see in front of this picture, a bathhouse, a caravanserai, a water reservoir, a mosque, and a bazaar. Now, the bazaar in this complex is one of the oldest in Iran and is 93 meters long and connected to Ganjali Square through 16 I-1 and wharf. Like most squares in Iran, the building architecture exhibits strong influence of Safavid architecture style. The interior of this complex was decorated with exquisitely plastering works and wall painting, which are well preserved for more than 400 years. The architecture of this complex reflects the geographical condition and climatic circumstances of Iran in the past. So let's move on with more images to have an understanding. You can see these are the shopping street. When you enter from these I-1s, all in I-1 in shape, all corner, and you go into it, actually is a shopping bazaar area, the main bazaar area. And they also have one of the most beautiful wind tower in Iran. And these sections of the complex was the oldest one, and the statue that you look at it itself is actually, as I mentioned just now, is the governor of Kerman, right? Ganjali Khan statue. Inside the bazaar, you can see the architecture styles. Remember that this is actually during the Safavid era, which actually, if not mistaken, is during the 3rd century. Very simple and plain, but highly skilled and beautifully decorated. Simple but yet beautiful. And this is actually some of the shops that we come across, and this is actually selling all type of local herbs and foods and spice. Dry nuts are very, very popular here. Tea leaf and spice. And this is the pistachio nuts, and you can find many stores are selling them, and they are come in few flavors. Some are unsalted, some are salted. Even salted, they have few flavors, and I tend to like the salted pistachio nuts, and I did bought quite a fair bit back home. It's very reasonable price here. You have also other dry nuts beside pistachio nut. You can see they're still using some very ancient measuring scale. And as mentioned earlier, the copper industry was once main industry in Kerman, but now it's more as an art. You can see the copperware in this shop. And of course, beside copperware, you also can find jewelry, goldsmith shop selling gold. And the next one is actually a very simple but beautiful complex, and it's called the JABALJEH dome. Now, it's a very simple building. It's actually also known as Gabri Dome. It's located in the city of Kerman, and it actually has been recognized as the National Monuments of Iran in 1316. An octagonal, predominantly stone structures constructed of mostly stone, and a very small portion, which actually at a high level is constructed of brick. A very unique piece of ancient building exhibit the architecture style of Safavid Sasanic era. Sasanic era. Now there are 8 doors in all the 8 sides of the building, of which 7 of them have been closed up. And the purpose of closing up is because you need to strengthen the building, and therefore left only with one side remain as the door for entering to this JABALJEH dome. And this building is sited in a very large greenery landscape place, and as far as concerned, it is actually one of the pictorial squads for photographer. Picture squad for photographer, because the well landscape surrounding plus this unique very flat dome roof and the stone building is quite a good attraction, as seen in the image I just shared with you now. So you can see that it's all constructed of stone, except the higher portion. You found that there's a little bit of brickworks, but the brickwork take up a very, very small fractions of the building material. This is the only entrance door that's left. They believe this building have to do with this Zoroastrian heritage or culture. And next one is that in this KERMAN, you also will come across an ice house, which actually I did introduce to you during my first episode to Iran, the introductory episode to Iran about ice house, underground storage space that is built to keep frozen ice which collected during the winter and used as a refrigerator, for use during summer. Mayodi Ice House, which is surrounded by large greenery, is located in KERMAN city. It's a cone-shaped structure made of sun-baked brick and clay. It's about 18 meters high, which resembles a huge dome, a popular tourist stopover spot in KERMAN. So you can see that this we actually just tour around and have a look at it itself. It's among the so many ice house that we visit. It's also one of the quite a tall one as far so far that we have come across. So this is so much so for what I had to share with you when we visit to KERMAN, because our visit itself that we don't put too much time in one city in KERMAN. We basically putting 2 nights to cover beside this KERMAN and Rayen Castle. Actually, we also have visited the Lut Desert, but I'm not covered in this session 1 of my travelogue. I'll put the Lut Desert in the session 2 of my travelogue when I introduce you in the second half of this year. So for your info, please stay tuned. All right, for more interesting place in Iran. So our next episode will still be cover Iran, and after that we are moving on to new nations, Turkey. I will share with you more in the next episodes. And thank you for staying until this hour with me, and thank you for support my travel channel. Please do subscribe and share to a friend and family so that they can, like you, virtually travel around the world at the comfort of their home. Again, thanks you again for supporting my travel channel, and see you next week. Bye. Thank you very much for viewing.